Hello, hi everyone. Welcome back again for this live read along of Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, by this adaptation of Mrs. Dalloway. I'm Lydie Bureau and I am an English teacher in France. I'm also the founder of Lydie's Book Club, in which I host live readings of adaptations of classics like this one, of English literature or contemporary novels. And I tend to prioritize novels that are written by women. And once a week with the members of the book club, I host a live read along, a live session on Zoom to discuss the chapters read over the week and to also talk about other books that we've read before, or talking about English learning or any other topic that come into the conversation. And today we're going to read section 8. I've just finished catching up on section 8, on section 7, just a few minutes ago, and now we are reading section 8 of the novel, so it's pages from 59 to 62. And if you want to know more about Virginia Woolf and her novel, if you haven't read, if you haven't started reading the novel, if you didn't start with us the reading of Mrs. Dalloway, then I invite you to listen to the podcast episode 17 that's coming out tomorrow. It's called An Introduction to Virginia Woolf and Mrs. Dalloway, and you will be able to watch it from tomorrow. So it will be a great way for you to have more information about Virginia Woolf and the context in which she wrote the novel, and also know more about the novel as a whole. And this way you will see whether if it's something that you would like to give a go or not. Okay, so that's it for now, and I'm going to do a quick recap of section 7, the one that we've just read before. So this section is dedicated to Septimus Warren Smith, who is one of the main characters in the novel. And he is thinking here about his past, is telling us more about his past, and also the reasons. We kind of get a better understanding of his condition and why he's like that. So as I was saying earlier, he didn't manage to grieve. It felt like he didn't get even the time to grieve his friend Evans, who was an officer in the army during the war, and he died during the war. And he didn't get the time to grieve from his trauma from the war and all the horror that he had witnessed over the 4 years, the past 4 years in the trenches and fighting against the enemy. And instead, he got engaged with Rizia, and we actually learned that he never loved her, because actually he was in love with another woman that he knew before the war, and her name was Miss Isabel Paul, who was, let me refresh my mind. She was she was probably a teacher, an English teacher or something, who talks about Shakespeare. So she's probably someone that would teach Shakespeare plays. Yes. So she is probably, yeah, a teacher of English and maybe a specialist of Shakespeare or something like that. We don't, it doesn't say much more in the book. And so he was very much in love with her, and the war happened, and he was, when the war ended, he was in Italy, and he stayed in this inn, at this innkeeper, and there was two young ladies making hats, and he married the younger one, and that was Razia, and then they moved to England. But it seems like Razia liked London at first. When she moved in with Septimus, she liked very much London. But Septimus was kind of hiding the fact that he could not feel any emotion anymore. So he married her, but he actually did not feel anything for her. Like, he did not feel anything when his friend Evans died. He didn't cry for his friend. So in a way, as I was saying earlier, he didn't really grieve his friend. Not being able to cry for someone is I don't want to say it's not normal, but I mean, it's not in the process. There's something missing in the process of grieving if you're not crying for someone that you love dearly, and has passed away. So he didn't do the whole grieving process. And now he is in this conflicted mindset, because he feels guilty of the fact that he didn't feel anything for his friend when he died, and he feels that he betrayed Isabel Paul for marrying Razia instead and not her. So he's feeling very, very guilty, and the only way for him to escape from this situation is death. So he is talking about killing himself quite a lot. And now he is at home, and he sees, instead of seeing his doctor, because he's threatening to kill himself, then Razia calls his doctor, Dr. Holmes, but he's not very helpful, because for him there is nothing wrong with him. He just needs to get some distractions and everything will be fine. But that doesn't work. And when Dr. Holmes comes in, Septimus is very suspicious, and he doesn't see him as a person, but as a representation of human nature. And a monster that is coming to hurt him, basically. So it's very tense. It's a very tense end of the chapter of the section. So let's see what happens next. Okay. It was exactly 12 o'clock by Big Ben as Clarissa Dalloway laid her green dress on her bed, and the Warren Smiths walked down Harley Street for their appointment with Sir William Bradshaw. That must be his house, with the big grey car in front of it, thought Theresia, as the echo of Big Ben died away. So remember the clocks, the clocks ticking each time, rhythms very much the novel and the different sections of the novel. Every time the clock strikes, then it's a new character that we are embarking. It's a new character's life that we're embarking in, and here again. Indeed, the splendid grey car that was Sir William's. That's another doctor that Theresia and Warren are and Septimus are going to see. Matching its elegant grey paint, there were grey furs and blankets inside, which kept Lady Bradshaw warm while she waited for her husband during his visits to patients out of town. For Sir William would often travel 60 miles or more into the country to visit the unhappy rich who could afford the very large price he rightly charged for his advice. Lady Bradshaw waited with the furs and blankets on her knees, thinking sometimes of the patient, sometimes of the growing wall of gold, which would protect her from all worries. This image is very humorous. Because he charged so much, he's a very expensive doctor. So the narrator is saying that here it's probably Theresia in Theresia's head, because she's passing by with her husband and she sees Lady Bradshaw in the car waiting for her husband, she's imagining her thinking of. So basically, Theresia is thinking of Mrs. Bradshaw, Lady Bradshaw's thoughts. So you see how the thoughts in the thoughts. That's crazy. So Theresia is thinking about Lady Bradshaw's thoughts on the amount of money she's gonna make from all these visits out of the country, out in the countryside. And this big wall of gold, so all this money will protect her from any problem. So as if money would solve any problem in life, and we've seen it that it doesn't. Unfortunately, otherwise life would be so easy. So where was I? So the growing, where was it? The growing wall of gold, which would protect her from all worries. Sir William himself was no longer young. He had worked very hard, earned his excellent position, though his own ability, being the son of a shopkeeper, and loved his profession. Its difficulties and the demands of his many patients had given him a heavy, tired look, together with his silver grey hair, one of great importance. His skill, his knowledge, his sympathy, and his understanding of the human mind could be trusted completely. The first moment the Warren Smith came into the room, he could see that it was an extremely serious case, a case of complete breakdown of mind and body. He judged in 2 or 3 minutes. He wrote the patient's answers to his careful questions in a pink card. How long had Dr. Holmes been seeing him? 6 weeks. Dr. Holmes had said there was nothing the matter. Ah, yes, those family doctors, thought Sir Williams. It took half his time to undo their mistakes, and some could never be undone. You won medals in the war? The patient only repeated the word war and could not answer. So the patient here is Septimus. Yes, Rizia told the doctor. So it's Rizia instead who is repeating, because Septimus said, just said war. And Rizia answered yes. Rizia, and they had a good opinion of you at your office, Sir William said. So you're not worried about money. He had committed a terrible crime. He had been judged by human nature, and his punishment was death. I have, he began, committed a crime. He has done nothing wrong at all, Rizia promised the doctor. If Mr. Smith would wait, said Sir William, he would speak to Mrs. Smith in the next room. Her husband was very seriously ill, Sir William said. Had he talked of killing himself? Oh, he had, she cried, but he did not mean it. Of course not. It was only a matter of rest, said Sir William. It was only a matter of rest, said Sir William. A long rest in bed. There was a charming nursing home in the country where her husband would be looked after perfectly. Away from her? She asked. Unfortunately, yes, since the people we care for most are not good for us when we are ill. But he was not mad, was he? Sir Williams said he never spoke of madness. He called it not having control. But her husband did not like doctors. He would refuse to go there. Simply and kindly, Sir William explained to her the seriousness of the case. He had talked of killing himself. There was no choice. He would lie in bed in a beautiful house in the country. The nurses were admirable. Sir William would visit him once a week. Now, if Mrs. Warren Smith was certain she had no more questions, he never hurried his patients. They would return. He never hurried his patients. They would return to her. They would return to her husband. Oh yeah, because they were in the other room. They would return to her husband. Okay. So they returned to the greatest of all men, the criminal, who faced his judges, to Septimus Warren Smith, who sat staring, whispering messages about beauty. We had our little talk, said Sir William. He says you were very, very ill, Rizia cried. We have been arranging that you should go into a home, said Sir William. One of Holmes' homes? Said Septimus with an ugly smile. Sir William, who attached great importance to clothing and manners, did not like the look of this untidy young man. He never had time to read for reading himself and disliked educated people who came into his room and suggested that doctors are not educated men. One of my homes, Mr. Warren Smith, he said, where we will teach you to rest. And there was just one thing more. It was quite certain that when Mr. Warren Smith was well, he was the last person in the world who wished to frighten his wife, but he had talked of killing himself. We all have low moods, said Sir William. Once you fall, Septimus repeated to himself. Once you fall, Septimus repeated to himself, human nature is on you. Holmes and Bradshaw are on you. Would he avoid punishment if he confessed his crime? Septimus started. But what was his crime? He could not remember it. Yes, Sir William encouraged him. It was getting late. Septimus started, tried to think about yourself as little as possible, said Sir William kindly. Really, the man should not be out in public. Was there anything else they wished to ask him? He would make all the arrangements, he said quietly to Rizia, and let her know between 5 and 6 that evening. Just everything to me, he said, and showed them to the door. Okay, so 9 to go. Never in her life, Rizia felt such pain. She had asked for help, and he had failed them. Sir William Bradshaw was not a nice man. But what more did she want? Sir William gave his patients 3/4 of an hour exactly, and the doctor himself must keep control, or he would fail. He must command control, so he ordered rest in bed, alone, in silence. Without friends, without books, for which the friends and family of his patients were always deeply grateful. But Rizia Warren Smith cried, walking down Harley Street at 1:45, that she did not like that man. And that's the end of section 8. Again, very short section here. Well, so they're going to see a new doctor because with Dr. Holmes, it doesn't seem to work, but she doesn't quite like this new doctor, this pretended expert or this specialist doctor. She doesn't really like his manner and the fact that he wants to take him away from her, take Septimus away from her in one of his nursing home. So she doesn't feel it. She doesn't trust him in a way. And we can see the double, see how Septimus is very much, he doesn't really communicate. You see, he's very troubled to express himself, and he can't barely answer to a question or even formulate a complete sentence. So the whole responsibility goes back to Rizia, and it's her who has her husband's she has her husband's life in her hand, and might be quite hard for someone to have this power over of someone that you love, and not knowing what's the best choice is, what choice to make. Yeah. And taking the right decision. So yes, these two sections were very much focused on Septimus and his wife, and their relationship with the doctors, and how doctors are viewed in society, and especially and how they view themselves as well as almost like gods, you know. So and it's interesting how Mr. Bradshaw straight away asks about asks whether his illness is related to money. So it's very much money driven for William Bradshaw. So this is quite interesting. So I hope that you enjoyed this live reading today, and I hope that you enjoyed the replay. And also, I remind you to make sure to subscribe to the book club. All the links are in the description in my YouTube about page. And also in the description, I think you've got the link to the website to subscribe to the book club membership and be part of this beautiful community and this literary journey, and have the chance to discuss the book and practice your English. I wish you a beautiful end of the day, and I'll see you tomorrow live on Instagram to read section 9 of the book. Bye bye.